Hi Neve. Today I'll be doing a book talk and sharing my thoughts that I had while reading a book, which is totally not preparation for an assignment I have in 2 days. So here goes. So I'll be sharing some thoughts I had when I was reading the book I Was by Steve Wozniak, and who, some of you may know, is a co-founder of the famous tech company Apple. So here it is. So this book is an autobiography of the author Steve Wozniak, who I just mentioned, and it follows his life from his early life all the way to like after his creation of Apple, basically throughout his entire life. But instead of like a typical autobiography where you go like, oh, he when he was young he did this, blah blah blah, it follows more like his creative and curiosity, like his journey of tinkering with engineering, and basically follows through his obsession with innovating, making electronics, making gadgets, and all that fun stuff. And instead of going deep into like the technological details of each and every invention within the book, he focuses on the creative and curiosity and inspirational aspect within these creations, and shows how that led to him being one of the most prominent figures in the history of technological development. So yeah, one of the biggest themes that's tied throughout this entire book is that creativity and curiosity is what drives innovation. So throughout the entire book, Steve Wozniak emphasizes the joy he has experienced with his creative tinkering and innovation, and shows how this inquisitive approach when dealing with projects or like passions led to his groundbreaking advances in technology, and not just only through his experiences on creating computers and Apple, which although of course are really important, but even through small moments like pranking, pranking his friends, like making a TV. A device that jams TVs, which frustrated lots of people. That was my favorite part, by the way. And or even printing hundreds of sheets of paper by running a program overnight. So yeah, uh, so one really good example of this in the book itself is when Wozniak, joined a computer club and realized that he had like the opportunity, like the connections required to make his own computer. So the passage goes as follows. It was as if my whole life had been leading up to this point. I'd done my computer redesigns, created data on screen with Pong and Breakout, and already done a TV terminal. I knew how to connect memory and create a working system. I realized all I needed was this processor or another one like it and some memory chips. Then I had the computer I always wanted. Oh my god, I could build my own computer, a computer I could own and design to do any neat things I wanted to do with it for the rest of my life. So from this passage, Wozniak employs a first-person conversational tone, which I really want to highlight, and that's honestly a clear trend throughout the entire book. So obviously, since it's the autobiography, it's probably going to be in the first person as you'd expect, but the conversational tone that makes everything so understandable despite dealing with such a technical subject is what makes this book really appealing to me, and I would say for everyone else. So like I said, this book deals with some pretty technically heavy like content with like engineering, technology, computers that people might not know a lot about. But Steve Wozniak does not go makes this seemingly daunting subject really approachable by limiting the use of his technological jargon, and instead using more simplified vocabulary and employing conversational tone that makes the reader be able to you know be able to relate to his experiences and what he's talking, despite not being while not needing to know completely what about like all the details of his innovations itself. And yeah, um, another thing I really like is how he seems really cheerful about the throughout the entire book, and like even when he's talking about some of the tougher parts of his life, and using phrases such as the cure I've always wanted, and like it's as if my entire life had been leading up to this point. It kind of gives it a sense of destiny, and it shows how his innovative spirit has been his driving force, and that innovation comes not from a given moment, but from collective curiosity accumulating in a given moment of inspiration, and which once again makes the book relatable, and it allows people to really connect to the feeling that Steve Wozniak is feeling, despite not obviously again not not like experiencing the actual process of developing uh, the devices themselves, which is honestly something really appealing because as someone who's does not know much about computers and like their components and their engineering, I was able to understand 90% of minimum of this entire book, despite of going through loads of like technical stuff. which honestly is pretty impressive. I thought I would have to look up lots of stuff, but nope, I did not. So yeah, uh, in general, by throwing his thrill of innovation and the process of which he develops computers and how he interacts with others, and he uses lots of vivid imagery and this really detailed and meticulous descriptions as well. Instead of going to deep technological jargon, the reader is once again able to share his thrill of innovation much easily and therefore connect to a topic that might seem daunting at first. So, in general, I would recommend this book to anyone who's yet to read it, even if you're not particularly interested in the history of computers, engineering, all that stuff, you know. But especially if you are, I would especially recommend it because it provides such deep insight and into such a great innovator and person that you just have to have read his point of view and how he you know goes about making stuff and making stuff. And if you're not interested in the subject, I would still read it because it might inspire you to do something new. Remember, this book isn't just about technology, it's about seeing the fun in things. And while having fun, it shows that, well, if you have fun and approach everything with curiosity, creativity, and fun, you can do anything, and you can innovate. You can make great innovations and leaps for humanity. That's all I have. Thanks.